Dean Huijsen looks set to move to Real Madrid in a £50 million move to Spanish giants. Chelsea miss out on another transfer target. After Liam Delap looks like he's set to move to Manchester United. Welcome back to From the Shed End. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new, as always, please make sure you subscribe. You hit that subscribe button and like this video. We are on the road to 800 subscribers. So, of course, as I keep saying, every subscribe helps. Everyone commenting and making the algorithm work in the best way possible helps this channel. So let's get straight into it. Dean Huijsen, according to Real Madrid and Fabrizio Romano, Real Madrid are in direct meeting with Dean Huijsen's camp to complete the agreement on the contract. The agreement, a $50 million release clause with Bournemouth, has been sealed on Wednesday as reported. Matter of contract details for Huijsen's camp then. Here we go. There we have it. Another transfer target missed. As Chelsea fans, we have to be questioning the sporting directors for two reasons. One, they've been at this club for too long now to still be making these silly mistakes. And two, the Club World Cup is less than 3 weeks away. We have to be on top of things. We have to get these transfer targets done. And Real Madrid are doing exactly that. They look like they'll be announcing Trent Alexander-Arnold very soon. Dean Huijsen, another one, is now looking likely to be another addition to their squad. And we're still sat here with a bit part squad and still needing reinforcements. And as I said, the Club World Cup starts very soon. So Paul Winstanley, Lawrence Stewart, a lot of focus, a lot of attention. The magnifying glass will be on those two for the next couple of weeks because we have to get deals done. And they have to be the right deals. Now, I'm not saying you should always get your first target, your first transfer target. Sometimes you will miss out, but there are going to be several other alternatives to the top target. Now, I'm hoping, as sporting directors of a top club like Chelsea Football Club, they have got a list of players. Should they have missed out on Dean Huijsen, they can now go straight to and start negotiations with, because we can't afford to lose out on too many of these top targets. You should remember when we lost out on Rafinha, we lost out on a lot of other players. It just doesn't bode well with me. In terms of Huijsen, I don't think you could doubt that he was going to join Real Madrid. You know, Spanish international. He's going to get more minutes in a national team. I think he's a Malaga fan as well. These things are going to factor. There's not many players that can and will turn down Real Madrid. Liverpool were interested in Huijsen. Arsenal, of course, we were. But as soon as Real Madrid come knocking, you're not going to turn that down. You're gonna go and play for them. And he's Spanish. We can't expect him to come and not do so. But it's a massive acquisition for Real Madrid. They've done some brilliant business in terms of keeping him in their radar and securing him, in readiness for the Club World Cup, like we should be doing. But let's switch our attention, because I do feel with the fact that we've lost out on Dean Huijsen, we want to keep it on the centre-back approach, because I think we know we need reinforcements. We know that Wesley Fofana potentially isn't the best, in terms of keeping himself fit. We know that Badia Shield, Axel Dezazi potentially will be leaving the club in the summer. So it will leave us short. We'll have Trevoh Chalobah, and Slamino, if he stays at the club, will be part of that setup next season. But there is talk of the one Antonio RUDIGER coming back to Chelsea after his departure 2022. Due to the sanctions and being able to renew his contract at Chelsea. Now, if you remember back to that point in time, he didn't actually want to leave Chelsea. He was almost forced to leave the club. He didn't want to leave us. We were forced to allow him to negotiate elsewhere. We let him run his contract down, which is a mistake on our part. But until those sanctions came in, we physically couldn't do anything. Now, if you remember back to Rudiger, his emotional leaving video, he didn't want to leave. He didn't want to leave the club. He loved the club. He loved being in London. I wouldn't be surprised. Now, according to Talk Chelsea, they have said Chelsea are considering a surprise return for former defender Antonio Rudiger. Chelsea is reportedly exploring the possibility of bringing Antonio Rudiger back to the club in a move that would surprise many. The German centre-back, who became a fan favourite during his previous spell at Stamford Bridge, is set to be on the club's radar ahead of his summer transfer window. Talks have reportedly begun behind the scenes as Chelsea prepare for another busy few months of transfer activity. Now, if this story is true, and it's not just Talk Chelsea that are reporting this, there's a lot of other outlets that are reporting this could take off and grow some legs. Now, if it's true, we have to count our lucky stars, because I think if you remember back to how pinnacle and how good Antonio RUDIGER was the last couple of seasons before he left us, we need someone like that, solid at the back, leader. He's obviously gone to Real Madrid and won things there as well. If we can get him in the door, and Huijsen going in the other direction to Real Madrid will give less time for RUDIGER in the team, I would not be against that at all. I wouldn't be against that. Now, the reason I think RUDIGER would be good is because I think if you look back to this season, last season under Pochettino, there was a lot of defensive mistakes. There were so many defensive mistakes. And if you look at how RUDIGER plays for Real Madrid, as I said, his time before he left us, the 21-22 season, he was immense. He was superb in our defense. He was absolutely a rock in the back. And we need someone like that. This is what, when I say about a proven winner, experienced player, I'm talking about an Antonio RUDIGER. Colwell could learn off him. Anselmino would learn off him. Chalobah could learn off him. Achiempong, there's so many things that would work in this. And I don't think the wages would be an issue. I really don't. I think we would be able to do a good deal with RUDIGER, get him back to the club. He knows the club. He knows what it means to play for Chelsea. This is one that the owners, the sporting directors, they can't fumble now. Dean Huijsen, gone. It's in the wind. RUDIGER has to be the guy that comes in. There's a lot of talk about Mark Guehi, but if you're looking at RUDIGER and Guehi, I think you have to go with RUDIGER. As I said, he's got history at the club. He knows what it means to be a proven winner, played at the top level, Champions League. This is what it means to bring someone like that back to the club would for me would be a sensational signing, and we have to be all over it. The sporting directors have to be getting these deals done snappy, because when the Club World Cup comes, obviously the window opens just before the Club World Cup, shuts again, and then reopens a couple of days later. We've got to get our squad ready for the Club World Cup. So as soon as June the 1st hits, these sort of deals for RUDIGER and whoever else, they have to be done. We have to be moving fast, just like I'm seeing City and I'm seeing Real Madrid do. We have to be moving the same. And if the club are serious and ambitious and want to try and win this Club World Cup, then they're going to have to bring in the experience. Because we can't go to the Club World Cup with Trevoh Chalobah and Levi Colwell and Anselmino as our centre-backs and Wesley Fofana if he stays fit. Bring in Antonio RUDIGER, balance out stability at the back. It makes perfect sense. Absolute perfect sense. So sporting directors, Paul Winstanley, Lawrence Stewart, we are talking to you as Chelsea fans. Get this deal done. Now, the latest news coming out of Cobham at the moment around Trevoh Chalobah, as we keep it on a defensive topic at the moment, is around the fact that Trevoh Chalobah is still expected. I can't believe I'm even going to say this. Trevoh Chalobah is still expected to be sold or to be told he will be a bit part player next season. Now, I am shocked by that, I'll be honest, because Trevoh Chalobah for me has been one of the best centre-backs at the club. Not just this season, not just last season, but seasons before that. And the fact that Trevoh Chalobah is still being made the scapegoat to get out of the club, even coming back from Crystal Palace and putting in a shift the second half of this season, shows you that the club's only caring about the money and a pure profit. Now, if Trevoh Chalobah was not going to generate pure profit at the football club, I can guarantee you his name would not be at the top of the list to go out the door. Trevoh Chalobah. I'd rather see Keenan Dewsbury Hall walk out first. Trevoh Chalobah's been a rock. He's never put a foot wrong. He doesn't speak out of turn. Even when the club tried to force him out of the club, he still came back and gave his all. And he knows what it means to play for Chelsea Football Club. Now, if RUDIGER comes into the fold, he comes back into the squad next season, I still think you need a Trevoh Chalobah in that squad. The problem is Trevoh Chalobah doesn't want to play a bit part. For me, he's too good to be a bit part player. Trevoh Chalobah should be playing week in, week out. The problem is you have Levi Colwell, who's the manager's heavily invested in, the club have heavily invested in. But Trevoh Chalobah is a solid rock at the back, and we should keep him. We should keep him in that squad, especially if we get into the Champions League, and more so if we get into the Europa League, because you need that rotation. You need club football in terms of the domestic league, the League Cup, the FA Cup, the Europa League or the Champions League. You're going to need to rotate. You're going to need to rotate. And I feel this is a really sad state of affairs for the football club. What the club should be doing is, rather than letting this news leak out to the press and to the media that they want him gone, that they want to try and sell him in the summer, is actually put an arm around him and reassure him that actually you've got a role here at the club. Now, your time might reduce if you bring in another solid centre-back, or it might actually just stay the same, or it might increase, but they shouldn't be trying to force him out of the club. These news stories should not be coming out about Trevoh Chalobah, in my opinion. I think it's a disgrace. I think it's an absolute disgrace. Trevoh Chalobah has been one of the most solid players at the football club, and to try and force him out purely for pure profit is crazy to me. Absolutely bonkers. I hope he stays. I hope we can somehow find a role which fits in Rudiger if we get him, Chalobah, Levi Colwill. But all three of those have to stay. If we pick up a big injury again to Wesley Fofana and Colwill gets an injury or suspended or Rudiger doesn't turn up at the club, we're going to need Trevoh Chalobah. So the fact that we're even talking about selling him when we haven't got the reinforcements in, to me, is absolutely bonkers and it's crazy and it shouldn't happen. So let's hope. Let me know what you think in the comments. Am I being crazy? Should Trevoh Chalobah be sold? Is he not good enough? If he is sold, who should come in? Do you agree that Antonio RUDIGER should come in as well? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Now, we do have an important game tomorrow. 8:15 kickoff. If you haven't already, you can check out Theo and myself on the podcast yesterday. You'll see the link here where you'll be able to check out all the podcast from yesterday where we discussed Manchester United coming to Stamford Bridge. Now, this is a Manchester United team. Let's have it right. We should be beating them. We should be fucking beating Manchester United. They're that shit at the moment. There shouldn't be a reason we can't beat them. We know that Matthias de Ligt and Lenny Yoro are both out of tomorrow's game. They're injured. Of course, they're looking forward to the Europa League in a couple of days as well. I think this is the perfect time to play Manchester United. I think it's the perfect time to play them. And I'll be very, very, very concerned based on their form, based on how they've played this season, if we can't get 3 points tomorrow. If we don't get the 3 points tomorrow and we end up having to go to that game, the last game of the season next Sunday against Nottingham Forest, and we're having to rely on other teams and we're having to make sure we do our job next Sunday, we can ease all that. We can alleviate all that pressure tomorrow night. Now, I'm not saying the job's done tomorrow because we still need to go and beat Nottingham Forest, but it gives us that cushion, that safety cushion underneath us to be able to go to Nottingham Forest and play with a bit less pressure. We still need the 3 points, but to beat Manchester United, one, it's Manchester United. We should be beating them anyway. And two, their form has been in the gutter for the whole of this season. Now, Maresca, team news, the press conference was held earlier on today. There's 2 injuries to pick up. Mark Gu is now back in training, but doubtful for the game. I don't think he'll even make the bench tomorrow, potentially. Reece James did miss some training sessions this week, but has trained yesterday with the team. He is back in contention to start tomorrow. And of course, we know that Christopher Nkunku, of course, is injured because he wants out of the club. It's a fake injury. He's never going to play for Chelsea ever again. But we know that anyway, so it's not a problem. But Maresca has to get it right. And I say this every week. I say it all the time. Maresca has to do something now, which he probably hasn't done before, and trust these players to get the job done. Now, if that's Reece James at right back or Moises Caicedo, whoever he thinks is going to get the job done, he has to trust them. Big conundrum that we don't have Nicholas Jackson as our number 9. There was talk today in the press conference who will fill that role. Maresca kept his cards close to his chest. I think personally it's going to be Pedro Neto. We'll talk about the lineup in a minute, but this is the point where you get the 3 points and you see a sense of calmness come between the players and the fans for next Sunday. This is a Ruben Amorim team that is in the shitter, is in the absolute gutter. We shouldn't even be talking about a draw or losing this game. They're so easy to play against Manchester United. It shouldn't be a problem. Now, we know that they gave us a good game last season, the 4-3 with Cole Palmer, last-minute goal. But this is the moment that you have to strike. And you have to get the job done. I don't even need to talk too much. I really don't. Now, I did say yesterday that this fixture, home and away, has churned out 13 draws. It doesn't bode well for us. But I'm going to caveat all that by saying that this is the worst United team I have ever seen and watched in my life. If we can't beat this United team, we don't deserve Champions League football. We don't deserve Europa League football. we don't deserve to see top players come to this club, because this is one of the worst United teams in history. This is worse than David Moyes, Erik ten Hag. This is worse than those guys. How do I think United are going to line up? We know that Anona's going to be in goal. They'll go with potentially a back five with Ahmad, Mazraoui, Maguire, Luke Shaw, Casemiro, Ugarte in the midfield with Dorgo on the left wing back, Garnacho, Fernandes, maybe Rasmus Højlund up front. The thing that worries me about United, the only thing that worries me, is Fernandes and Casemiro are threats for them. And they can turn up and just flick a bit of a switch and turn up and do something. I say all that, but they're going to have their mind on the Europa League. And I said yesterday on the podcast, none of those players are going to want to get injured for the game next week in the final. Not one of those players will want to get injured. So this is the perfect time to play them. It really is. There's no excuses in this game. Stamford Bridge, home advantage, you're playing for the Champions League qualification spot. Let's not switch things up like we did against Ipswich and Fulham and Crystal Palace over the Christmas period that fucked up the season. Let's actually stick to what we've done best. Let's actually stick to what we know we can do. Now, it didn't work against Newcastle on Sunday, but this is home advantage. Watching that Liverpool, that 3-1 again, how well we played against the champions of England. Let's replicate that at Stamford Bridge. Let's make it noisy. Let's make it intimidating for Manchester United. Let's make it intimidating for Mason Mount potentially if he starts the game or even when he comes on. Let's remember that he's a snake, he's a Judas. Let's make it intimidating for them. Let's pile the pressure on Onana. He's not a good goalkeeper. Let's take the shots. Let's not pass around 20 million times. Let's take the shots and test the goalkeeper. That's all I'm saying. If I was Maresco, that's exactly what I'd be saying in the dressing room. Drilling it into these players what it means to play this team and beating them. Lineup. Let's go with the lineup. Now, I think it's quite self-explanatory, if I'm honest. I think it's going to be Robert Sanchez in goal. I think it'll be Moises Caicedo at the right back, with Levi Colwill, Trevoh Chalobah as the centre-backs, Marco Correa as left-back, Enzo Fernandez in the midfield with Romeo Lavia alongside him. I have actually gone for Tariq George. We know that Jadon Sancho cannot play in this game due to his parent club being Manchester United. I've gone for Cole Palmer as the 10, Noni Madueke as the right, and I've gone for Pedro Neto as the number 9. And I think that's how Enzo Maresca has to set up. Now, it doesn't really give us that many options off the bench, but I think if we can command the ball, control possession, we don't even need to control possession. It's what we do when we've got possession that matters, and we got to see that with Liverpool only having about 38 possession of the ball. So we don't have to overkill the game and pass a million times. When we've got the ball, let's make it count. Let's do something with it. Allow United to have the ball if they want, but we have to be solid at the back and defend well. And our midfield too, of Lavia and Enzo, two things. They've got to get through this game unscathed. We can't afford for injuries at this point in the season. And Caicedo. All three of them have to be in that final game of the season against Forest and in the Conference League final. So let's get these games out of the way. Let's get United game out of the way. No injuries, no red cards, no stupidity. And then let's focus on the Europa Conference League final. And then we can go to Nottingham Forest with a bit of pressure taken off us. We could end up in 3rd place before anyone else kicks off on Sunday. Let's make it count. Let's make it count. Let me know what your predictions are. I'm going to go for 1-0 Chelsea, but let me know what you think in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and we will be back with a match review after the game tomorrow night. Enjoy the Friday when you get to it, and we'll be back soon.